All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rival Podcast, AFC South Rivalry. I am DJ Be Cool, aka AB, and this is Head of the Table, aka Aaron. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Just got off work, had a great week. Ready for the weekend. But I'm excited because right now this week, what started? The combine started. And, I'm just excited to see all the college players. Potential draft picks from any team, especially with the Texans, myself, with ourselves. Just seeing the players. Especially hearing about everybody's 40 times. I'm just excited for this offseason to go by, the draft to go by, because right now the draft is honestly looking exciting. Come about, and I'm ready to see who decides to get drafted and everything.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, we're all excited here, really all excited to see, who can we draft, right? Those are the main questions going into the
Yeah.
offseason. Who are we going to be able to draft? Who are we going to be able to go for? And that those are the main questions here, and that's what we're going to answer in this podcast, most importantly. And when we get into this point of the offseason, this is where fans are bored. There's
Yeah.
nothing going on outside of the Super Bowl. That's basically it. Obviously, March is the month where free agency will open.
Hmm.
Mid-March, I believe, you'll start to see free agency open. So that will be interesting once the
Hmm.
market opens, and then we'll get the draft in late April. So um, right now, we're just gonna go ahead and do a little bit of projections, right? What's on the news for both teams? What's on the radar? So let's start with the Texans a little bit here. Aaron, what's live for the Texans this week? What has been going on, or the past 2 weeks, should I say?
Honestly, so far with Texans, not much has gone on. It's just been simple conferences, simple media. Nick, our GM Nick Casario, and our coach D'Amico Ryans. They're at the combine. They're meeting everybody. They're just having great media. They're looking for the right players. Who they're projecting that they want to draft. As the draft comes along, and so far we're hearing who they're meeting with, who they're really liking, and like the main topic that I've seen is that D'Amico and Nick, they're looking for that the how we call our swarm mentality, and they're looking for that dog mentality from these young kids, and a lot of them are really at their own media press conferences, and they were happy after meeting with the Texans. They were saying that oh, I'm a type of dog that I hope that they can draft. So right now, everything's going well. Uh, the one key media topic is that the Texans that it's just a little bit of interest of the offseason, but that the Texans are interested in acquiring Debo Samuel from the 49ers.
Ooh,
Just because of our our low wide receiver depth room right now, especially because
yeah.
we haven't signed Stephon, so I don't think we plan on signing Stephon Diggs in the offseason. But yeah, Debo Samuel news is kind of like a pretty key interest, but right now we'll see how it goes because that's how it is in the offseason. Just they're interested, but then nothing happens.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's a lot of where's everybody going,
Yeah.
who, what, where, right? And with Debo Samuel, definitely a guy that can impact the offense, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Disregarding his injury history here, I mean, he's an amazing athlete. He's an
Mhm.
amazing player. We've seen the stats before. I mean, Debo Samuel is one of those receivers that can really take your team to the next level, and I think that's kind of what we've been seeing from someone like Debo Samuel. I mean, he's
Oh,
he's a really good player, and I honestly think like you said, there's potential for him going
yeah.
to the Texans.
Yeah, most
Most
definitely.
definitely.
Yeah, especially because of D'Amico Bryan's being from the 49ers organization. Just certain players that like talk about D'Amico on the Texans from the 49ers. There's always those behind the scenes where they're talking amongst themselves like, oh, maybe I can go to Houston because that's where Coach D'Amico went. But it's just one of those things where it's like it's based on the GMs. If they want to pull the trigger, they'll pull the trigger. If they want to acquire or remove a player.
Yeah, no, most definitely. It's a just a true question there, and where everyone can go. I think Debo would be a good addition. Also, like you said, D'Amico Ryan's. I mean, he used to be on the same team
Oh
as
yeah.
Debo in San Fran and everything like that. I mean, if we look at his stats here, just 2023, you look at it alone: 892 yards, 89
Mhm.
targets, right, 14.9 yards average, 7 touchdowns. I mean, he has some really great stats here, and
Mhm. Yeah.
definitely he's had years where he's done better. His best year being 2021, where he got 1,405 yards, 121 targets, and he got 6 touchdowns. And just really good by him right there. He's a really good just a guy. He's not really a number one receiver. He's more of like that versatile receiver that can do about
Yeah,
anything you ask of him. So I think he would definitely impact because you have Nico Collins, right? But Nico
yeah, yeah,
Collins isn't the type of receiver that you want to use just all over the place, like
yeah,
in the screens, in the backfield, right? Also
yeah.
over the top, right? Debo can do almost about everything. With Nico, you'd rather use him downfield. That's
Yeah, Nico's
preferable for Nico.
Nico's that number one, and I'd say Debo is that supporting role to the number one. Helping get those cornerback safeties off of Nico's back. Just wanting to support him, especially because we know Tank Dell will more likely be out all season. So it's good to acquire this talent, that talent. No matter if they're average or great, just to add that amount of depth to get more work off of Nico's back. That's the way I assume that we want to go.
Exactly, and I think Debo's an amazing player, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I do want to bring this into question from an outsider's perspective. For the Texans, when you really look at them and you look at CJ Stroud in that offense, right?
Yeah.
Would you think that he was lacking that supporting role throughout the season to Nico Collins? Someone that could be in the backfield, someone that could help him out, or do you feel like maybe Tank Dell was filling that role? Who was filling that role last year, and why was that role unsuccessful? Why you guys need someone like that right now?
Honestly, the way we were last year, it was just so, how can I say, where we didn't know when it was going to explode because we had all three talent of Nico, Stephon, Tank Dell, just all healthy, especially against the Colts the very first game, and it felt like they were stagnant. The offense wasn't going to do nothing. Like it just felt slow, and we were like, maybe this is the first game for right now. They're trying to learn the roles, work together. Tank Dell and Nico, they've worked together before, but the way it started off looked slow, and as the season went by, it just kept like going nowhere. It just stayed still, and of course, us we blame it on Bobby Slowick with his play calls, with how he ran formations, and it was to where it wasn't supporting the receivers on the way that they usually run their routes, run their
Yeah,
attack scheme. So a lot of times the play calls just weren't helping. So really, each game nobody could do anything. Nobody could go off the way that we potentially saw this offense to go off the way we wanted it to be this explosive offense. Like before the season started last year, we were like high picks to be in the Super Bowl, but as soon as like a couple games went by, it was like, where's this offense that we were
yeah,
hoping for? So yeah, so for us, you know, Nico Collins is always going to be our number one right now. He had a great season right now because of Tank Dell being hurt, because of Stephon more likely out, like just pretty much out the door already. I believe we'll go into the draft, get another key receiver in the offseason with the free agency, go in to get a supporting role, whether it's a good backup or whether it's a good third receiver for in case we draft a receiver in the 25th pick.
yeah, most definitely. And I think a factor of that, and really a result of the lack of a supporting role maybe that you guys had in the offense, and a
Mm-hmm.
part of that was Bobby Sloak, right? The play calling, and that definitely got exposed in the Vikings game. I still remember
Yeah.
everyone was
Oh
shocked
yeah.
when they saw the score 34-7 and was like, how did the Texans get lower to 7 points? Part of it
Yeah.
was the offensive line, and I'm almost certain part of it was right the lack of a supporting role in the backfield. There was no one
Mm-hmm.
to kind of go on those screens and get yards after the catch, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Joe Mixon might be one of those guys, right? I know he's really good at probably getting yards after the catch there in the backfield, but you really need someone in the backfield that can get you yak. And Deebo Samuel, right, being one of the top in the
Mhm.
league last year for yards after the catch, not this year specifically, but last year in the Super Bowl run,
Yeah.
he's definitely known for that. That's something that Deebo, most importantly, under the Kyle Shanahan system, was really good at was yards after the catch. And now going into right Houston's how they're looking like you want to use Debo in that team. I think that would be extraordinary
Oh
for him
yeah.
to see in a team like that to get yards after the catch for CJ Stroud, help him in those situations, right, where the secondary is covering so well that you have to lead, you have to go with your guys in the backfield. If they're blitzing, you got to be able to rely on
Yeah.
someone. So it can't always be Joe Mixon all the time. Can't always be the back. You got to have a receiver that you can play with. And I think Debo is definitely that guy. But definitely there. I mean, you brought up some really good points with Debo. I mean,
Yeah.
Debo is just an amazing receiver. And I think, as you said there, he could be a great addition for Houston.
Yeah. And if we wanted to put money on somebody, I'd rather put money on trading for Debo rather than reacquiring Stephon, because Debo still got, you know He's honestly been in the league for a couple of years. Meanwhile, Stephon's been in the league for I think over 10 years now. So I'd rather go the younger, more explosive rather than the old veteran that came off of an injury this past season.
Yeah, most definitely. You want to go with that guy that is more explosive, right? And
Mm.
definitely a really good option. And in terms of other Texan news, what else has been happening on the Texan side? Have you heard been anything drafting or anything other news related to Houston so far?
Honestly, not much. It's just been like everybody's been low to the ground on news. Like they've kind of stayed out of the media. Like last year, last year in the
Hmm.
offseason, TJ was always on was really always on podcast interviews. Doing all this, especially on YouTube with Micah Parsons. And right now, they kind of, in a way, I feel as if Nick Casario and D'Amico told them, "Hey, let's make this offseason a quiet offseason. Let's go to work. Let's get ready for next season because we know that what we want to do next season. We know we want to come in getting that revenge, getting that where you want to be mentality, rather than let's just go out in the off season feeling like we don't care about what's going to happen in the next season."
No, yeah, most definitely. And we definitely want to see it. Definitely want to go through with it. The
Mm,
Texans, I think, adding in that weapon. And on the Colts side of things, though, we're switching around to Indianapolis.
mm,
Definitely the news of bringing in competition for
yeah.
Anthony Richardson has come about. And I'm going to bring it up again, even though it's a little bit of old news. But Stephen Holder on February 25th had some really good quote to go with it. And as
Mm,
Ballard was kind of explaining here, and I'll quote it. Ballard went further on Tuesday, right? This is kind of what he
mm,
said. It's got to be the right guy to create real competition. We want to create real competition. I think it's good for the team. I think it's good for Anthony. We drafted Anthony high knowing it was going to take some time, and we knew that there was going to be some hiccups along the way. I know we all want to finish product. I do as well. You do. Fans do. We all do. But I think as he continues to progress in his young career, us adding competition, I think will help everyone's game. So and I do agree with Ballard there is like bringing in that extra competition, right?
yeah.
Whether it's Justin Fields, whether it's I'm just going to shout out Joe Milton from the Patriots, right?
All right.
That could be a good option. I mean, he's a running dual threat quarterback,
Yeah.
or even Justin Fields, or other quarterbacks that can fit into Shane Steichen's system, right? The dual threat, the RPO. So definitely great for Ballard to be able to say that. And I want to
Mhm.
get some of your thoughts, Aaron. What do you think of his quote right there and explaining that bringing in competition for Richardson will kind of help the team out?
Honestly, for me, especially with Anthony Richardson, it could be with it being his third year. Like so far with CJ, with his third year, we know who the starter is. We know who he is. We know the confidence he has. We know the play style he has. But with Anthony Richardson, with it being his third year, with so many complications, with so many problems that have happened in these past two seasons of the Colts, with their franchise, with the playing, with the play style, with Anthony Richardson's health, it's kind of like, all right, we're giving you this third year, but you need to fight for it. And if you don't fight for it, you might just lose your job. So at this point, what like from my perspective, looking at the quotes, it's hey, go out and sign a quarterback if you want to. Maybe average quarterback, maybe like Joe Milton. Bring in a decent backup just to be fighting for that spot. And honestly, if you don't bring in somebody that's too great, then I'd say go ahead and in the mid round of the draft, go draft a guy, and bring in a even younger competition to show Anthony Richardson, like, all right, if you don't do what you're gonna do, we can easily replace you with this pick that we just drafted. So
Yeah.
go after what you're gonna go after. You just hired somebody to help you out, to coach you better, to make you feel the way you felt back in college, the way you played. This is why you were drafted. So honestly, it'll be a tough mental aspect for Anthony Richardson. But at this point, with it being his third year, because usually everybody gets only 3 years from fans from the team of how long they're going to wait for them to become who they thought that they were going to become. So yeah, I'd say with this third year of Anthony Richardson, it's either going to be him finally coming out of his shell, being who he wants to be, or the Colts going ahead and having the backup ready, the backup starter ready, just in case Anthony Richardson doesn't develop the way that everybody hoped that he would develop.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, there's even news of Anthony Richardson, right? Ever since hearing these news of like, oh, we're going to bring in competition, all of a sudden we've seen him. Now it's going to be announced that he's going to train with Josh Allen, right? So he's going to be training with Josh Allen, the new VR training. VR
Mm,
training is something that Jaden Daniels did. ever since he was at LSU, and look at him, right? He
Yeah.
won comeback. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he also took the Commanders to the NFC Championship game. So, like, again, I think seeing Anthony Richardson train with Josh Allen, training with Chris, right, the trainer of Josh Allen, that helped him get his completion percentage from a very low to very high. I think his name was Chris Hess, and he was able to help him get up there. Now Chris Hess is going to train Anthony Richardson's accuracy. So I really
Yeah.
think that Anthony Richardson this offseason, now has a healthy offseason, right? Last offseason, he was kind of hurt. Also going on podcasts, right? We saw him like not really training that much.
Yeah.
And now this offseason, we see him taking it just a little more seriously. And I'm glad to see that from Anthony Richardson, just taking the NFL not as like, some right joke, like it's easier than college, right?
Yeah.
Some of the
Most definitely.
statements that was made, but Anthony Richardson now seems to be taking it way more seriously, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do this upcoming season. Of course, there's months to go until the next season, but definitely exciting news that he's going to be training with Josh Allen.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Because for me, with our division, with the rest of the teams, like honestly, it's always been me loving the rivalry between the Colts and Texans, the quarterback battles between each other. From I don't care, I'd say Peyton Manning and Matt Schaub because I love Matt Schaub back in my days. So I
Yeah.
love the rivalry of each other. So I want to see that rivalry keep going. Those tough games is even this season, even if you all had a struggling season. When we played each other both times, it was still a fight, and that's the way I love it.
Yeah.
Compared to the Jaguars and Titans, where I'm like, man, screw them. They ain't nothing to us. But when it comes to the Colts, I'm always just kind of like with that nerve in the back of my head, like, oh, this is gonna be a fight.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's Colts is always a fight. It's always guaranteed. Colts Texans will be a good game just because of the quarterbacks that are there. And I think that those two quarterbacks will continue to grow, right? When you talk
Oh yeah.
about Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, those are quarterbacks that are going to continue to grow, and we shall see where they go from there. And then after that, we got Titans who, I mean, they might get Cam Ward, right? I don't think
Yeah.
Will Levis is it. If they would have thought that, then we would have seen Will Levis, right, stay. And he is still there. So he realistically still could win the starting job. But right
Yeah.
now, Titans are just not thinking that he's it. And Cam Ward will probably be going to the Titans or Shadir Sanders. So we should start to see that.
And I know I saw a media comment, and I believe it was the Titans GM, but I saw a media like where all the media's around him. But it was during the pre combine of I believe it was last week. But in a way, they were kind of talking about like what they'd expect for that number one pick if somebody were to trade for them. So at this point, we're like, are y'all going to keep that number one pick, or are y'all going to just trade back? Because I understand trading back is going to
Yeah.
give you all a great package of amount of other picks because other teams can be really desperate on what they'll give you for that number one pick. So with the Titans, it's kind of like, all right, are y'all going to pull the trigger and trade the pick down, or keep it where it's at and draft that number one pick?
Yeah, no, most definitely. It's just kind of that situation where you want to wonder what they're going to do with that pick. And
Mhm.
the Titans, again, one of those teams that it's one of those teams that I feel like as a Colts fan, they're a team in the league where you just don't want to play them for whatever reason. At least
Yeah,
that was during the Mike Vrabel era. You
yeah,
never
oh yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
play the Titans just because they're a really just ugly fight type of team. They're ugly,
yeah.
physical. Basically, it's kind of like how, if you think about it, some defenses around the league, like the
Mm.
Eagles defense this year,
Oh,
people are starting to compare them to the Legion of Boom that was happening in 2014 with Seattle. And I could agree. Philadelphia's defense looks like they're just very physical, right? They
yeah,
only rushed four against the Chiefs, and they were still getting pressure.
yeah, yeah.
And their secondary was amazing, performed outstanding, getting those two picks.
Mhm.
So again, that was pretty interesting. But Titans, on the other hand, is just one of those teams that you kind of just don't want to face because of their defense. And their defense, was top 5 in yards
Yeah,
allowed. So their defense is still continuing to be that defense that we remember that of
throughout,
being
yes,
very good, very
yeah,
reputable.
yeah. Throughout the years, it's all with the Titans. Like, and I give respect to the Titans.
Mhm.
It's always been their defense that have been like really that tough fight. But throughout all these years, it's always just been they fall off because of their quarterback struggles. Like throughout all these years, they've always had
Yeah,
just a bad quarterback where it's like y'all know you're not going anywhere. Like I understand y'all want to give hype to your team, but you got to look at
yeah.
who you got behind the helm, behind throwing the ball. So it's like, you know, I applaud y'all for doing what y'all do, but y'all got to make the right decisions especially when it comes to the quarterback role.
No, yeah, exactly. Most importantly, and then when it comes to Jacksonville, of course, you know, you got your new head coach.
Mhm.
Interesting to see Trevor Lawrence probably going to get the starting role again.
Yeah.
I believe, yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to get that starting role again. So we shall see how that ends up panning out for them. I know Jaguars fans aren't really excited to hear that at all, just because Trevor Lawrence has had so many opportunities and we've never really seen him take that next step. I think he's more
Mhm.
though just staying kind of on the same level here. But now moving on into more Colt stuff. Obviously, draft projections in general is a
Mhm.
little early to get into right now, but I will get into one that did me with the Colts. That was Tyler Warren out of Penn State.
Oh.
So Tyler Warren, really great tight end,
Mhm.
6'6",
Yeah.
257. I don't think the Texans defense wants to even see him.
Not
But
not with our linebackers.
yeah, definitely not. I mean, he's a big tight end, and I think he runs a 4.7 right here, according to the
Mhm.
stats. And Noah Compton, the writer for Stampede Blue, wrote just yesterday for Stampede Blue here. Tyler Warren was the CFP semifinal in the 90 Lions' entire offensive identity this past season, aligning everywhere on the field, right?
Mhm.
He could just go in tight end, slot, receiver, fullback, wildcat quarterback, and out wide. He can play multiple things, right? Go around the backfield. Warren's Mackey award-winning senior campaign resulted in 1,233 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns, 218 rushing yards, which is interesting. 4 rushing touchdowns, and a passing touchdown to serve as the cherry on the top.
Mhm.
And then Chris Ballard kind of admitted during the end of season presser that last season's tight end room left more to be desired.
Mhm.
I do agree with this, and I'll add more until this quote is over. But
Yeah.
Ballard did say, we didn't get enough production from them. I've got to be able to give Shane Steichen and them a guy that can really control the middle of the field that teams have to account for and defend. And I do agree with there, right? Tyler Warren, if we are able to draft him at number 14, I think that would be a great addition, right? You saw what Brock
Oh
Bowers is
yeah.
doing for the Las Vegas Raiders, getting over 1,000 receiving yards. I mean, he was an amazing tight end. And I think adding Tyler Warren to the offense, you already have Jonathan Taylor. You already have Anthony
Mhm.
Richardson. Now you have to worry about the middle of the field with Tyler Warren, the 6'6" behemoth of a man, right? Just
Yeah.
right there. So I think that would be a great weapon, too, for Anthony Richardson to rely on in the middle of the field, especially with Anthony Richardson's arm. I think Tyler Warren being able to play multiple spots, even rush the ball. I mean,
Yeah.
I could already see multiple things that Shane Steichen will do with him. But I think he is also going to be a great add-on if we're able to get him here
Mhm.
at number 14. What are your thoughts, Aaron, on Tyler Warren?
Honestly, Tyler Warren is a player that a lot of coming from a Texans Discord, coming from Texans Twitter, that they really had eyes on Tyler Warren as well. But so far I wouldn't see us going after him because we already have kind of a tight end room with Brevin Jordan, Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover, all young guy, two young guys, and Dalton Schultz pretty a veteran right now. But seeing as if the Colts decide to pull the trigger and draft him at that pick right there, honestly, that'd bring a great weapon because now in the NFL you need a great tight end, a really great speedy
Yeah,
tight end, the one who knows how to run his routes. I think honestly everybody wants to follow that Travis Kelsey route where it's like find your tight end with the right quarterback so that they can have that great connection. But with Tyler Warren, I feel if he was drafted by the Colts, I could see that being really deadly. The receivers for y'all, they can run the routes, but then the defense won't really keep their eye on the tight end most of the time. So it's quick dump off, quick, just shots from Anthony. Instead of going deep, you can just go the middle route, short dump off route to Tyler Warren, who can break the tackles, get through, get the yards you need instead of doing something flashy, playing some hero ball. No, you just get the tough yardage that you want to get going to a tight end like Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren.
no, most definitely. Tyler Warren, like you just said, he's an amazing tight end. He has a lot of potential, and I
Oh yeah.
think if we're able to get him, it would be huge. I mean, just look at the both championship games. Look at the top 4 teams in the league in the playoffs this year, right? The
Yeah.
Bills, Dalton Kincaid, the Chiefs, Travis Kelsey, Eagles, Dallas Goedert, and
Mhm.
Commander Zach Ertz, right? Those are 4 great tight ends that can help their quarterback. So
Yeah.
clearly, when you look at the top 4 teams in the league that made it that far to the championship game, right, they all had a great tight end. And I think
Mhm.
if Colts can get a great tight end for Anthony Richardson, the sky's the limit, right? It could really help
Mhm.
him out, and it could really open up more possibilities because we already have the run game. We have some great downfield receivers like Alec Pierce, right? We have that reliable guy in Michael Pittman. Now you just need that guy in the middle of the field and the tight end and Tyler Warren. So that's kind of the missing piece left on that offense. And the offensive line is already pretty solid, pretty good. I think we have
Oh
some
yeah.
good depth so far. So definitely want to see the potential there. But as we're starting to close out, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron, is there any final thoughts, any final news from Texans, from Houston that you want to say here for the audience?
Mainly, going off of who's meeting with who, the high potential pick that we, all of us Texas fans want. The Texans actually had a meeting with him today, and that's the receiver from Ohio State, Emeka Ibuka, who
Ooh,
is
that's
that
gonna be
number one
good.
receiver that everybody wants. So for us, it's like because we're pick 25, so it's kind of one of those where
Yeah,
you feel as if he won't fall all the way. So for us, we're kind of saying, what if we just trade up? Just see where if if his name gets past 15, I say go ahead and try to trade up. But if he gets drafted, I say from 1 through 10, then it's like I wouldn't attack it because plenty of receivers in the draft that are great, like Matthew Golden from UT, who is also a great potential receiver that we could draft because he actually started college in U of H, then transferred to UT. So and he's a Texan fan, so he is a second receiver that we more likely wouldn't
yeah,
be mad at getting. So yeah, so right now with us meeting with Emeka Ibuka, who everybody should know his name by now, being a great
yeah.
receiver from the Ohio State. So yeah, it's one of those where it's like I kind of want the draft to happen tomorrow, honestly, because I want to see where we go with that 25th pick if we decide to trade up and go get somebody like Emeka Ibuka.
Most definitely. He's a great receiver, a great athlete, and also just in general, right, from Ohio State. And
Mm.
I think that's definitely going to be really huge for the Houston Texans if they're able to acquire a guy like that, considering Stephon Diggs is probably not going to get signed back.
Yeah.
So, it's the question, do you even need to get a receiver from free agency if you got this amazing prospect from Ohio State where CJ Stroud's from? So it's kind of that question that goes up in the air for
Yeah.
Houston. I feel like is like, do you even need a guy in free agency if you got the guy from Ohio State that's going to be really good as well. So
Mhm.
I think he's going to be an amazing receiver. He's projected to be really good, and I,
Oh
I
yeah.
think it would be a great pick too. I think it would fall late first round, so Texans could be able to acquire him. But that's going to be it, ladies and
Mhm.
gentlemen. It's a Friday night. Unfortunately, we were able to not go live last week, but we are live this week. And that was me, DJ Be Cool, aka B. That was Aaron. You can follow him on our contacts below. Those should be in the description, our Instagram or our other socials as well.
Mhm.
That was it from us. This was the Rivalry Podcast, and have a good weekend.